Interesting. Getting to think about things. So, over to Sue.
Hello. Hello. Is everybody awake? Yes, that was a fantastic presentation. And I'm in absolute awe when you have a senior researcher who's based within cancer care who's talking about lifestyle medicine. It makes my heart sing. I'm Sue Cooper. I live in Nottingham. And I started a community project about 10 months ago called Self-Care World, and it's about integrating the art of living with the science of health. And I'll talk a little bit more at length about that, but a lot of what I've got to say mirror images what Stephanie's had to say, so I'll be able to build on some of the beautiful points that Stephanie's brought forward. And the aim of my short talk is to ignite an awareness for us to awaken to our own healing potential. And healing is a word that is very, very passionate to my heart. I started my nurse career in 1973. I'm still a registered nurse. And healing in 1973 and onwards was very much at the heart of care. It was compassion and care and giving time for people to be within the hospital, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. I don't know if you can remember those days. You had a baby and you stayed in for about 10 days. I'm not saying that was right, that was just how it was then, but we had a lot of time for people. And we've moved forward in our amazing transformation of the science of health. What I do believe, and this is a personal view, but I think it's gathering momentum, is that we may be slightly out of balance with the science of health and the art of living. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So the essence is about holistic well-being. So about 12 years ago, I was very ill. I had my own care home business. I was a creative character and a rebel. I've always been a rebel. And I wanted to do things that help people have a full life. And that was okay when people who came to us were more able. But over the years, the regulations got tighter and tighter, and I totally appreciate regulations are there. But it started to start my own creativity of helping people find their own way to healing and to a vibrant life. And bit by bit, I hadn't realised I got stress. You know, stress was something that I'd heard about that was machinery. You know, you'd hear about stress and tension within machinery, not within a human environment. So we decided, my husband and I worked together, which also was some sources of stress every now and then, even though we get on very well. And we decided that we would sell our business and I had to look after me. And this is the first point I really want to make. This healing journey is your own journey, and it's a journey that is unique to you. And I was very fortunate that we, as rebels, decided that we weren't going to do travel, we were going to do, tourism, we were going to do travel. And for the last 12 years, most of my life has not been in this country. It's been elsewhere with a rucksack, staying in some not terribly nice places, but when you're away a lot of the time, we couldn't afford luxury hotels, every so often having a nice meal. But I'm interested in healing, I'm interested in indigenous healing, and my husband's very interested in war and what causes war in these areas. So the two actually work beautifully together, because when you've had chaos within a certain area, there's usually a very strong healing ethic as well. And what I found on those travels were that support was at the heart of healing. And to be standing here today with you as a support network is honestly a great privilege, because we do what we do because that's what we know we do. But when we've got support of other people, be it within our family, within our community, or within a network such as when you've had a diagnosis, is essential for healing. So the other thing that I became very aware of was, in a lot of these indigenous places, there was the Western medical doctor. And the Western medical doctor had his science, and he had his tablets, and he had some surgery, and he had the wonderful techno advances, not necessarily as well as we have here, and we are very blessed here. What what they had there was they had maybe called a witch doctor or maybe called a healer, and it was somebody who would be within the community that they knew and they trusted, and they were able to go to this person and have long conversations and talk about what was wrong, what was troubling them, and all their dynamics of their life. And the healing model was usually natural. So when we have the art of science, which is more the pharmaceuticals and the science that we know and love, but when we start to add the art of living with it, this is what I found within the indigenous cultures. So I'll just flick this. So the question here, and we hear this all the time, and I find it, sorry, I'm moving around. I find it incredibly worrying from a personal perspective that we keep talking about a healthcare crisis. I actually don't believe there is a healthcare crisis. I believe what's going on in the health service is amazing, but it's moving more to a basis of acute care. And more people are being aware of Dr. Google. They go forward and say, this is what I would like, and this is great because this is assertiveness. We know what's available, and I would please like it. Someone talking about £80,000 for a drug this morning, it was like, that's fine, you know, that's great if the health service can afford it, and it's relevant. But my point is have we got a self-care crisis? And Stephanie's conversation this afternoon is about this self-care. It's about the uniqueness of you coming back into the picture of being this active participant rather than passive recipient. Now, I would suggest, because you're here, you've had, the majority of you, had a life-changing diagnosis. To become an active participant is the most natural step. And I'm thinking that maybe we're moving away from a more paternalistic circumstances towards one of equal care. So the self-care crisis is bringing the responsibility back to ourselves to feel, as Stephanie said, to feel the emotions that run through us and to know what is good for us, each one of us as an individual. So the science, health, wholeness, healing all come from the same root word. So the science of health, as I say, is very well described. The arts are less so, and the World Health Organization describes health as an art and a science. Public health describes health as an art and a science. So the self-care crisis that I am talking about is this is where we can become that active participant in our care through the healing arts. And the healing arts, such as meditation. Mindfulness has taken off with a huge explosion. I don't know if anybody's had any mindfulness training. We're going to have a little experiential try on that. Writing gratitude journals, poetry, painting, drawing, anything that brings creativity back into the forefront, because we are creative people. So I've put in the middle of this. When we merge the science and the arts together, we start to get a greater clarity. Clarity comes from as we quieten the mind down, and it's called intuition. I'm sure we've all heard of intuition, and that's tutor. It's our inner teacher. It's our quiet voice that rests within. And when we have this very noisy, chattering mind, we don't hear intuition. So when we merge the science and the arts together, intuition we start to hear what's right for us, and we can start to become more creative. So back in 1970 Blob, this was the mantra that we were taught. The role of the nurse is to put the patient in the best possible condition so that nature can act and healing occur. And there's just a few words that I'd like to pull out of there. Patient. Patient is the word that we are called when we enter the health service. You become a patient. And it comes from the word patience. Healing takes time. And to have healing, you need to be patient, or one needs to be patient. And this is where the word originated from. To be put in the best possible condition. What's the best possible condition so that healing can take place? It's a natural thing, is healing. So it's putting us back into that natural place of care and compassion and support so that we can find our own way to healing. So as I said, in the olden days, we were in, they went to convalescent, and it was all very wonderful. Well, it wasn't all very wonderful. There were a number of problems. It wasn't perfect. But what we did have was we did have time. We did have people to support us within our healing journey. And you have this support group, and the support network that you do have is something really to be embraced and give gratitude for, because it's there for you to help you on your way forward. Cure and care. And again, Stephanie mentioned this. It's the same word except for that letter U. It's about you. It's about you finding your way to the best possible care for you. And it is difficult when there are no definite solutions of what that is. But it's back to calming the mind and tapping into this intuition that we have. And we really do, and I talk from personal experience, I really do know that this works. The mind and the body is interconnected. There's no two ways about it. In the early days, we had the mind-body connection, and then something happened, and kind of this happened, and there was a slice across the net, and the head went off to psychiatry, usually in a far-flung destination, out in the country, and this stayed within general, and a separation happened. Now that's allowed specialism to grow within the field of the body, and it really is excellent, right down to the minuscule, beyond cellular level. And the mind went off to psychiatry. But we now know, we really do know that the mind and the body are interconnected. And this is through the emerging fields of epigenetics, as Stephanie talked about, and also another field that's emerging called neuroplasticity. And I mention these words not to confuse you, but to raise your awareness that when you hear these words, these are now being scientifically validated, that your thoughts change your gene expression. Your emotions also change your gene expression, but likewise with neuroplasticity, your nervous system can be made slightly plastic so that you can create new nerve pathways. And there's a wonderful guy by the name of Richard Davidson, if anybody wants to follow his work, who works in America, who talks about well-being is a skill, and he's a neurologist. Well-being is a skill, and a skill that can be learnt. There's also another great voice in America. We have great voices in this country as well, but there's this gentleman I've done some work with, Daniel Siegel. And what we're talking about here is this word integration. We talk about integrative care. And integration of everything that's gone before, the science from the West, the Eastern healing traditions. Integration is the honouring of differences, and this is our own uniqueness. Honouring that there is not one path for every one of us. Sometimes within health, and again this is a personal belief, is that one goes with a set of symptoms and they have a range of options, and you could well be placed in all those various places. But the honouring of differences and the promoting of linkages. The promoting of linkages is linking the science and linking the arts, and really embracing this personal journey to self-care. So I would definitely recommend his work as well. He talks about the mind, huge amount about the mind. The 7 dimensions of well-being. I'll go quickly through this. This is a model that has come through my nursing experience, which I've tweaked a little bit. But it's a lot of what we concentrate is on physical health. And we've talked about the physical health aspect of it through nutrition, exercise, and sleep and stress reduction. The mental well-being is now a point that we talk about increasingly, and knowing that this must be talked about. Prince Harry did us a great favour, was it last year, when he actually talked about the effect of a bereavement on himself. And it brought a huge amount of conversation. So we're not talking about mental illness anymore, we're talking about mental health and how the mind affects the body. But the point that comes up again and again is about emotions. We're taught to suppress our emotions. And someone said to me, knowing that I was coming today, and knowing that last week a prostate cancer diagnosis hit my family, and my family, whilst they love me, think that I'm slightly hippie and out there, and all this stuff is not necessarily what they're interested in. When it hits your family, everything changes. And I've suddenly become a point of call for people saying, tell me what's mind body connection, etc. But these words really struck a chord with me, and I'd just like to share them with you. And this person said, it would surprise no one that a cancer diagnosis starts a person on an arduous emotional journey as well as a medical one. An arduous emotional journey. When he was handling the diagnosis, whilst he was handling the diagnosis well, and it came as a shock, a Gleason score of 9, from having no symptoms whatsoever, and it was just a routine test, so, you know, this is about having regular tests. He was handling the diagnosis well, and realised the journey of those supporting him was equally emotional too. And this is about our interconnectivity. We do a lot we do a lot for ourselves within this mind body, looking at our physical health, our mental well-being, our emotional resilience, but we're also part of a family, we're part of a community, we're part of friendship groups, we're maybe part of work-life balance. We may have financial considerations, we probably have financial considerations. And the ecological wellness, which I'll get into, but it's the emotional part of the recognition that the diagnosis starts a person on an arduous emotional journey, is as well as a medical one, is a really important part of self-care, because it's about, and Stephanie mentioned, it's about the expression of those emotions. So I'm just going to skip through this. NESS, and this is the acronym I use when we talk about mindfulness and wellness and gratefulness. NESS, the 4 pillars of health for the mind-body connection. The nutrition, talked about at length this morning. Exercise and energy is being looked at. Sleep, and it's a stress reduction. I'd just like to concentrate a little bit more on that. If you get those 4 pillars of health right for you on your own individual journey, you really will start to feel well, and your mind also will start to have greater clarity. So I'm going to invite you to take part in a little mindfulness practice. And let me just explain what this is about, because within stress reduction, I'm sure a lot of you understand about the fight-flight response, but I think I'd really like to just run through what happens to you when something happens that puts you into fight-flight. Because we have the fight-flight response, which is called the stress response, but we also have something which is now known as the relaxation response. And this is scientifically validated, and I'd like you to experience this. And it's validated by many, but particularly somebody called Henry Benson, who works at Harvard. So let me just flip here. So the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is, there's a big cross there, a big kiss, but it's also the Roman numeral number 10. We've got 12 intracranial nerves. The vagus nerve is the longest one, and it sounds like Las Vegas, but it's spelled slightly different. And it's classed as the wandering nerve. And it comes out of the back of the neck here, it goes round the front here, and it wanders, there's branches of it up into the mouth, and it wanders down through the chest, and it goes into the diaphragm, and then it goes into the enteric nerve here, the enteric system. So the vagus nerve is like the switching station between the stress and the relaxation. Okay, so the stress response is the sympathetic. You may have heard of the sympathetic nervous system. So I remember this, S and stress and S and sympathetic, and it runs up your spine. So that's 3 S's. And when you move into a situation which is either a physical threat or an emotional threat, your body goes into fight, flight, freeze more often than not, because it's there to protect you. So what happens is your body is wanting to either fight or run. So the blood moves from the central areas of digestion and heart center up to the outer limbs so that you can run. Your blood pressure goes up to pump more blood around into the limbs. So it's taken away from the digest area. You start to sweat. You start to breathe very shallowly and very quickly. And your blood starts to thicken so that it can clot if there's a wound coming. So that's the physical. The fight-flight emotional is something that is less well known about, because somebody says something to you or something affects you, it also stimulates the fight-flight stress response, okay? And the response to this is fight is saying something, maybe out of, and Stephanie alluded to this as well, saying something, you react to something through anger, through rage, or something, you go, oh, I wish I hadn't have said that. So that's the instant response. Or you take yourself away very quickly, and you see people on EastEnders or other places slam out, and that's the fight-flight response for the emotional response. Okay. Now we can reverse this, and we can settle this fight-flight down, because we are in fight-flight most of the time because our lives are very stressful. We have very, very active lives. The speeding up of the internet, the speeding up of life in itself, causes us to have this constant stress response, which leads to inflammation, which was mentioned this morning. So I'm going to show you how to do the relaxation response. Are you okay with that? If you'd like to do it? Okay, so ever so simple. And we've got a few minutes, so I'm going to just do a little more than you need to do it, because normally it only takes about 16 seconds. So I'd like you to find a nice comfortable position. And I suggest you put both feet on the floor. And when we talk about comfort, well, the word well means comfort, and the word being is about being in the present moment. So when we're talking about well-being, we're talking about comfort, we're talking about comfort and ease. So we're finding our centre point. I would suggest that you find a position so that you're not slumped back or slumped too far forward, because this is about the spine. As I said, the sympathetic nervous system runs up the spine. So if you find that centre point, and in Pilates they call it posture perfect. The other thing that you happen to notice within Eastern traditions when people are moving into mindfulness and meditation is people's hands. And they tend to, you maybe see this, I think it's nice to see this, so you see people sitting like that. There's no reason really for that other than they talk about energy, for energy points here. But what I like to see is that when I'm meditating, people are being mindful, take your palms upwards if it feels comfortable for you, because it automatically takes your shoulders back a little. And when it takes your shoulders back, it means that you can get a bigger breath. So just notice how that feels for you. And I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. Or if you prefer not to close your eyes, then just lower your gaze a little. Okay, and this is connecting with the feeling of how you feel at the moment. This is, I believe, the science. It's how you feel at the moment and how you feel after a very short opportunity of evoking the relaxation response. So you're feeling comfortable, just notice how you feel. And without any judgment, I'd like you to notice where you can feel your breath. Can you feel the rise and fall of the chest? Or moving up, can you feel the air coming in and out through the nose? Or if you'd like to move down the body, can you feel the air moving in and out very subtly in the belly? Not changing anything, it's purely noticing. It's just having a few moments out. Because what you will probably notice as you starting to quieten down, and I've started to speak slower, you'll start to hear the mind. And the mind is probably talking to you at this moment. What the heck am I doing? I'm not comfortable. I want to go to the toilet. I wish you'd get on with it. You'll hear this chat, and probably more. And this is the start of self-awareness, because when you start to become aware of the chattering mind, you're onto something. Because when you start to notice something, you become aware of it, you can start to change it. And the mind has between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day. Most of those thoughts are negative, and most of those thoughts are aimed at yourself. Knowing that was a huge relief to me, that I wasn't a bad person. It's the way the mind works. So we're quietening down a bit. I'm going to ask you now to relax your jaw a little, keeping your mouth closed, but relax your jaw. And then be conscious of where your tongue is in your mouth. Bring the tongue forward just a little. And behind the upper front teeth, place the tip of your tongue. If this feels comfortable for you, this is a significant energy point within Eastern philosophy. However, when your tongue is forward and resting just gently at the front, you cannot clench your jaw, and most of the stress that we have within when we're going through fight, flight or tension is in the jaw. So simply by doing this, everything starts to change. You're relaxing the throat. I'm going to ask you to relax the front of the chest and then consciously relax the belly. We're taught within our culture to hold our belly in. Relax the belly. And as you relax the belly, I'm going to invite you, again, only if this feels good for you, to take a conscious, long, slow, deep breath in and feel the belly rise. And a conscious, slow breath out. So the key words here is you're becoming aware of a part of your body I've asked you to put your attention on. You're letting it flow free. You're letting the air from the nose enter the belly and expand the belly. And then relax and release the belly, breathing out. So this is about slowing it all down. This is often very contradictory to what we do in our daily life. We're speeding up. This is bringing that balance back. What you are actually doing as you're doing this long, slow, deep breath is you're evoking the diaphragm and the vagus nerve. This is the key to this. The vagus nerve goes through the diaphragm. And when you stimulate the diaphragm and the vagus nerve, be it through laughter, sobbing, or this conscious, deeper breath, you're telling the body that you're safe, because you cannot do a long, deep breath when you are in fight, flight. You can only do shallow breathing. So just bask in this for a moment, of this relaxation at the front. You're invoking the relaxation response, in which case the cortisol and the adrenaline that comes from the adrenal glands is starting to settle down, and it settles down very quickly. It's still within the body, but it starts to settle down. So feel the belly rise slowly and feel the belly fall slowly. And to have extra impact on this, if you'd like to put a little smile on your lips, your eyes are closed, so this is your own inner experience, and then breathe in through that smile. It brings in the awareness of something called oxytocin, and it's the cuddle hormone, and it starts to help your body release these chemicals which are nurturing and nourishing. So if you'd like to, before you open your eyes, just notice how you're feeling. Are you feeling that everything is just slightly slowed down? Notice your mind. Does your mind start slow down, that ticker tape of thoughts? Because you've had your attention on somewhere other than your thoughts. And if you'd like to open your eyes, and then just rub your hands, let's get energized again. Because I don't want you all nodding off to sleep. What I could suggest here is, if you want to do this, just have a gentle stretch, because as you stretch up like this, you automatically fill your lungs, and then slowly let it all out. To do it again, take your arms up, breathe in, hold it, and then exhale through your mouth. Okay, whoa, can you feel the difference? Truly, I mean, it's like, it's magic. You see, this is the science. Okay, 5 minutes. Oh, it's all gone off, so I don't need to do that anymore. I have this organisation called, it's not an organisation, it's a community project, and I do most of my work for service to the community. I am a meditation and mindfulness instructor. I'm also an Ayurvedic lifestyle instructor. If anybody's heard about Ayurveda, and Prince Charles is big into this at the moment. So I teach people about Ayurveda, which is the oldest healing system in India. And I merged this with the science of health as well, the Western model, because I've still got my nursing registration pin, and I must demonstrate that I'm up to date with the science, and it's very important. So that's a beautiful merging. So I have 5 minutes, and I have loads of slides, but it's not about the slides, is it? It's about the science and the art. I'm going to quickly. Perfect. That's what I want. How can you do that? The answer.
Mindfulness.
Thank you, universe. Just one point here then is the vagus nerve goes through, and it's a switching station for the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. When we get this into balance, it's called coherence or homeostasis or alignment, whatever you want to call it. We need some stress within our lives, but we also need to have that balance as well to keep us going. We start to become more creative, we become more aware of what it is that will suit us, which will nourish us and which will nurture us, and move away automatically from things that actually make us feel really not very well. So the first point here is about taking responsibility. It's about you, me, it's about all of us. I'm a work in progress too, so that's why I love to talk about this. Reconnect to you, take responsibility. But it's about this self-awareness. It's about slowing down. Time to be out in nature, smell the roses, find a creative pursuit that enables you, whatever it is, through nutrition, exercise, stress relief, whatever it is that feels good for you, because this is about feeling good. And someone said to me, Sue, what are you going to do with your one wild and precious life? And I went, aha, I'm going to continue to talk about this. Maybe if one or two people pick up on it and go, do you know what, there's something in this. The medical fraternity are finding this now. Lifestyle medicine, and they're calling it LM, so once we shorten it, we know we're onto something. Lifestyle medicine is the forefront of the new integrative health model. So if anybody would like to get in touch with me afterwards, I do have a website, a little tiny one, and it's selfcareworld.org. And I have about the 7 dimensions of holistic well-being that I skip through. If you just put your email out, then I'll send it to you. And I never use data for anything other than one-to-one communication. And I've gone on all these things here. Twitter, Twitter and Facebook. And I know that Tackle has picked up some of the things I've been putting on there. But I've just had an article published, and it's on this called Medium, medium.com. And if you go onto my website, it's there, and it's called Cure plus Heal equals care. And it's all about curative model and healing model and the history of all this. So I'd like to thank you very much, Roger, for inviting me, for giving me half an hour space to share this. And I hope you've enjoyed the little experiential moment. Thank you.